Formula One isn't just about the cars, it's about the 20 lunatics who strap themselves into carbon fiber death traps and hurtle around tracks at 220 miles per hour while their necks endure forces that would hospitalize the average person. But here's the thing. Most fans only know the highlight reel version of these drivers, the podium celebrations, the radio rants, the Instagram posts. What you don't see is the psychological warfare happening behind those visors, the politics that can make or break careers, and the absolutely mental personalities that make this sport the greatest soap opera on wheels. In this video, I'll break down every type of F1 driver, from the calculating champions to the pay drivers just happy to be there. And I'll show you exactly why some of these blokes become legends while others become memes. Before we dive in, let me be clear. I'm not going to bore you with stats and race wins. You can Google that. What I'm giving you is the unfiltered truth about what makes these drivers tick, why some of them hate each other's guts, and how their personalities shape the entire sport. I've spent years analyzing driver psychology, team radio, and paddock politics. And I've distilled it all down to the archetypes that every single F1 driver falls into. So, whether you're a die-hard fan who can name every world champion since 1950, or you just enjoy watching cars go fast and occasionally catch fire, this is the definitive guide to understanding the men behind the wheel. Let's start with the calculating champions, the drivers who treat racing like a chess match, where the pieces move at 200 miles per hour. Lewis Hamilton is the prime example. 7 world championships, over 100 wins. But what makes Hamilton special isn't just his raw speed, it's his ability to play the long game. While other drivers are battling for a single position, Hamilton's thinking 5 laps ahead. He'll deliberately hang back, preserve his tires, and then strike when his opponent is vulnerable. Listen to his radio messages. While other drivers are screaming about traffic, Hamilton's calmly asking about tire degradation and discussing strategy. Bono, "My tires are gone" has become a meme because it's usually followed by Hamilton setting the fastest lap. But the calculating approach comes with a cost. These drivers can seem robotic, corporate, and too PR trained. Hamilton's post-race interviews are masterclasses in thanking sponsors and the guys back at the factory. It's why casual fans sometimes find it hard to connect with him despite his undeniable greatness. Max Verstappen represents a different kind of calculating champion. He's like a predator, constantly probing for weaknesses, forcing his opponents into mistakes. Where Hamilton plays chess, Verstappen plays psychological warfare. Watch how he defends positions, always leaving just enough space to be legal but never comfortable. He'll push rivals to the absolute limit of the rules, daring them to either back off or crash. It's not dirty driving, it's calculated aggression. His radio messages tell the story. They can't race like that. It's ridiculous what they're doing. Translation: I'm going to make you look like the villain while I push the boundaries. The calculating champions aren't always the most likable, but they're always the most successful. They understand that F1 isn't just about being the fastest, it's about being the smartest. Next up are the natural talents. Drivers who make the impossible look effortless. Fernando Alonso is the aging lion of this category. At 43, he should be well past his prime. But Alonso isn't human. He's a racing algorithm in a fireproof suit. His spatial awareness is supernatural. He knows exactly where every car is at all times, which is why his defensive driving is legendary. Remember Azerbaijan 2018? Alonso drove half the lap on 2 wheels after a puncture, somehow kept the car going and finished in the points. Normal drivers would have parked it. Alonso treated it like a minor inconvenience. What makes natural talents like Alonso fascinating is how they adapt. Put them in any car, any conditions, and they'll extract performance that shouldn't be possible. It's why Alonso could take that dogshit 2012 Ferrari, a car that had no business competing for wins, and nearly win a world championship with it. Charles Leclerc is the modern poster boy for natural talent. His qualifying laps are poetry in motion. The problem? Natural talents often make mistakes because they're constantly pushing the limits of physics. That's why you'll see Leclerc put his Ferrari on pole with a magical lap, then bin it into a wall while leading the race. The natural talents are the drivers that make you say, how the bloody hell did he do that? They're the artists of Formula One, capable of moments that defy explanation. But art isn't always consistent, which is why they don't always have the trophy cabinets to match their abilities. Now let's talk about the grafters, the drivers who've turned determination into an art form. George Russell is the perfect example. He's not as naturally gifted as Hamilton or Verstappen, but bloody hell does he work hard. Russell is the type to spend 12 hours in the simulator, analyze every corner of every track, and leave no stone unturned in his preparation. You can spot a grafter by how they improve throughout a race weekend. They might be nowhere on Friday practice, decent in qualifying, and then suddenly fighting for podiums on Sunday. That's because they're constantly learning, adapting, and refining their approach. Grafters are also the most technical in their feedback. Listen to Russell's radio messages. He's not just saying the car feels good or bad. He's describing specific corner entry behaviors and suggesting setup changes. It's like listening to an engineer who happens to be driving the car. The downside? Grafters can overthink things. They're so analytical that they sometimes miss the forest for the trees. When Russell has a bad weekend, it's usually because he's disappeared down a setup rabbit hole rather than just driving on instinct. But never underestimate a grafter. They might not have the raw talent of others, but their work ethic means they're always improving, always evolving. And in a sport where margins are measured in thousandths of a second, that constant improvement can make all the difference. Every grid needs its characters, and that's where the jokers come in, the drivers who treat the paddock like their personal comedy club. Daniel Ricciardo is the patron saint of F1 jokers. The shoeys, the pranks, the constant banter, Ricciardo treats Formula One like it's a laugh with mates that happens to involve driving at ludicrous speeds. But here's what most people miss about the jokers. The humor is a shield. Racing is brutally stressful, and the jokes are how they cope. Notice how Ricciardo's smile disappears the moment the visor goes down? That's when the killer instinct takes over. The jokers are also marketing gold. In an era where F1 is trying to appeal to new audiences, having characters like Ricciardo, who can go on American talk shows and charm the pants off everyone, is invaluable. It's no coincidence that Netflix's Drive to Survive heavily features the sport's biggest personalities. Lando Norris is following in Ricciardo's footsteps as the new generation's Joker. His Twitch streams, meme references, and general Gen Z energy have made him a fan favorite. But like Ricciardo, there's serious talent behind the banter. The risk for jokers is that they're not taken seriously. It took years for people to recognize that Ricciardo wasn't just a funny guy. He was one of the best overtakers on the grid. Norris faces the same challenge, proving that the humor doesn't come at the expense of focus. Now for the category no driver wants to be in. The pay drivers. Those who are on the grid more for their bank accounts than their talent. Let's be brutally honest. Lance Stroll wouldn't be in Formula One if his dad didn't own the team. That's not to say he's completely without talent. You don't get to F1 without some ability. But there are dozens of drivers in junior categories who would give their left bollock for his seat. The tragedy of pay drivers is that they can never escape the label. Even when Stroll has a good race, the narrative is, see, he's not just a pay driver, which ironically reinforces that he is one. Pay drivers have existed since the dawn of F1. The sport is eye-wateringly expensive, and sometimes teams need the cash more than they need the talent. But in the modern era, with F1's popularity exploding and every seat precious, the resentment towards pay drivers has intensified. The smartest pay drivers acknowledge their privilege and work twice as hard to prove themselves. Nicholas Latifi was never going to be world champion, but he was humble, hardworking, and honest about his limitations. Contrast that with Nikita Mazepin, who combined mediocre talent with an entitled attitude, and you can see why one was tolerated while the other was celebrated for his departure. Formula One has always had its veterans, drivers who've seen it all, done it all, and somehow keep finding the motivation to continue. Kimi Räikkönen was the ultimate old guard driver before his retirement. The "leave me alone, I know what I'm doing" energy. The complete disinterest in the politics and the PR. Kimi raced because he loved driving fast, and everything else was an inconvenience. What makes the old guard fascinating is their perspective. They've seen technologies come and go, survived multiple regulation changes, and watched young hotshots rise and fall. This experience gives them a calmness under pressure that younger drivers can't match. But age eventually catches up with everyone. Reaction times slow, the hunger diminishes, and suddenly that rookie who used to look up to you is now overtaking you regularly. The smartest veterans, like Fernando Alonso, adapt their driving style to compensate for what they've lost physically. They can't attack every corner like they did at 25, but they can outsmart drivers half their age through experience and racecraft. The old guard are the living history of the sport. When they speak, everyone listens, even their rivals. And when they finally hang up their helmets, they take with them knowledge and experiences that can't be found in any telemetry data. At the other end of the spectrum are the rookies, wide-eyed, eager, and often in way over their heads. Oscar Piastri represents the best case scenario, a rookie who arrives fully prepared and immediately performs. But for every Piastri, there are 5 rookies who spend their first season making mistakes, crashing out, and wondering if they've made a terrible career choice. The fascinating thing about rookies is watching them develop their identity. They arrive as blank slates, usually trying to be polite and uncontroversial. But as they gain confidence, their true personalities emerge. Some become jokers, others calculating champions, and a few reveal themselves as natural talents. The modern rookie has it harder than ever. Social media means every mistake is immortalized as a meme. The cars are more complex than ever before, and with only 20 seats available, the pressure to perform immediately is immense. But rookies also bring something invaluable to F1: fresh perspectives and fearlessness. They haven't yet learned what's impossible, so sometimes they achieve exactly that. Watch a rookie in wet conditions. They often excel because they're not overthinking, just driving on instinct. At the end of the day, these 20 lunatics aren't just drivers. They're chess players, comedians, warriors, rookies and legends, all strapped into rockets with wheels. That's what makes F1 the greatest show on earth. If you enjoyed this breakdown of F1 drivers, you'll love my next video where I'll be analyzing the most controversial team orders in F1 history. From Multi-21 to Fernando is faster than you. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it, and let me know in the comments which driver category you find most fascinating. Until next time, this has been Every F1 Driver Explained. I'll see you on the grid.